Hello. Today's lecture is on supporting connective tissues. In chapter 4, we went over the proper connective tissues and blood. Those are the connective tissues that are generally binding and holding things together. The supporting connective tissues, which are bone and cartilage, are, supporting the body. So, you'll be able to match the bone and cartilage cells with their function. So we have bone cells, we have cartilage cells. Do you remember what those were called from a couple chapters ago? Osteocytes, osteobone, cyte is cell. Chondrocyte, yes, I was sounding it out as I was writing it. Chondro is cartilage, cyte is cell. So those are the mature cells. They have friends. Each of them has 2 friends, so that's a total of 4 friends, I believe. So our friends, osteoblast, osteoclast. Those are the friends of the osteocyte, or is one of them the wicked stepbrother or sister? Chondrocytes, we have chondroblasts, chondrocytes. Wait a second, we've seen blast. It looks like blast is first. So if this is the cell, what was blast? Blast is destroy, right? No, please don't make that mistake. Blast is build. B is for build, not blast. So we have build, we have the cell. What do we have? Breakdown. Same thing, blast is build. Cyte is cell. Clast is break. And we're going to learn the osteoclasts are actually a type of white blood cell called a macrophage, or it's a modified macrophage. And chondroclasts are very rare. So we're going to start with cartilage. So what this is showing is we have our proper cartilage right here. This is dense irregular connective tissue. Remember, if you have to guess a connective tissue, the first guess should be areolar, the second guess should be dense irregular. So we have this layer of dense irregular connective tissue, and there are these small, flat cells called chondroblasts. So I have 2 rows, 1 row here, 1 row here. We'll have this row of chondroblasts build. And what happens when it builds is it thickens cartilage. So see how it's going up and down? I guess that's pointing to them. But it's going to thicken it so it gets, thicker. So these cells are going to grow. And see how they're getting more spaced out from each other? Technical difficulties here. They're getting more spaced out from each other. And they're putting fibers between it. Those fibers are going to be collagen fibers. You just can't see it. So we're going to get these chondrocytes, and they're trapped in these little lakes called lacuna. Well, what's around the lacuna? All this connective tissue. So that is a little chondrocyte. It's in its lacuna. Here we have a chondrocyte in its lacuna. This is probably not the best slide I picked on this. Here's a chondrocyte in its lacuna. So all of this around it would be the protein fibers, the matrix, and in this case it's collagen. So the matrix is this blue here. I have no idea why this slide is not. Oh, there it goes. Matrix. My refresh rate is just slightly behind because of all my coloring in blue. Now, chondroblasts are the building cells. Our trapped cells that become chondrocytes, they maintain the matrix, so they're maintaining the matrix. Then in the fetal skeleton, there's chondroclasts. They remove calcified cartilage, and this does not exist in the adult skeleton. How hard was that to say? Bone cells are going to follow a similar pattern. Here are my osteoblasts, and they are going to build bone. They're going to build the calcium phosphate matrix that has collagen fibers, and as they build, they become trapped in the matrix they're building. So we're going to have the osteoblasts still on the outside and inside. We have our osteocytes trapped in little lacuna. So osteoblasts build bone. They build it in length or in thickness according to the textbook. I'll have some issues with the length later. They become trapped in these lacuna. So here's the Here's the osteoblast over here. There's the osteocyte. And then we have this big eating thing called an osteoclast. It clears out old bone to be replaced by new bone. Your skeleton replaces 5 to 10% per year. So, osteoblasts build, osteocytes mature, they maintain the matrix, and the osteoclasts remove. I want to point out this down here. This is our osteocyte. They're actually these star-shaped cells. They hold each other's hands, it turns out, in the actual bone structure. And we'll talk about it when we look at compact bone. So actually, see these little canals? Those little canals are these hands. That really looks like a space alien running away to me. And they're holding each other's hands through these little canals. Isn't that sweet? Cells that mature the matrix of bone. That would be an osteocyte. Now, what would be really mean is to have a chondrocyte here as the first answer. You're like, oh, maintains matrix, but it's of bone. So make sure you read the entire question and all the answer choices. A cartilage building cell is, oh, look, there's what I did. Building cell, blast. I probably would put fibroblast on the test as number 2. And then as answer choice F or G, I would have chondroblast. So make sure you read the entire question, cartilage. So chondroblast would be the right answer. I like questions like this on the test. I used to have them all the time. I think it's a lost art where you have to fill in 2 blanks. Osteoblanks are build bone, while osteoblanks break down bone. Well, osteocytes don't have anything to do with building or breaking down, so any answer with this in it, which is only 1, I guess, I cross out. So what builds? Blast builds. So that's right. That's a wrong answer. So it's one of these 2. Oh, that has site in it. So that's how I got down to it. On paper tests, what you're supposed to actually do is write in the word osteo before you actually read the choices. Unfortunately, all your standardized tests are now on computers. They don't give you pens to write on the screen. So, we're now going to contrast cartilage and bone in terms of location of cells, blood supply, and growth. And we'll start with the cartilages. I probably should have a different objective for them. You will contrast the 3 cartilage in terms of location and unique structures. Bone versus cartilage. And my slide might be a little bit off here. My screen's been flickering on my surface. It doesn't affect the video, but I like to actually read the entire screen, so I changed the background a little bit to this. So, bone. It has living cells trapped in lacuna. Blast cells are in the endosteum and periosteum. What the heck is that? So, remember my picture here? I'm going to duplicate that. So here's my duplication. And I'm going to draw the rest of this bone in just black ink. So here's my bone. This is the outside of the bone. It's wrapped in a connective tissue, dense irregular, remember that's our second guess, called the periosteum. Now this inner layer, this is the medullary cavity, and it's lined with osteoblasts, and this inner lining is the endosteum. Now, I like saying endosteum just to get the inside better, but there's really only 1 O in it, so endosteum is the inside, I think in, where peri is wrapping around this. So we have a hollow cavity in the middle of the bone. So the osteoblasts, these green cells, are in the endosteum and the periosteum. And our living cells are trapped in the lacuna. So you can see in the picture here, look how small those cells are in there. They're in their little lacuna. Isn't that sweet? Collagen fibers give some flexibility. If you take a chicken bone and leave it in vinegar for 2 weeks, I suggest a smaller bone, not the thigh bone or the humerus. What's going to happen is you're going to be able to bend it. In lab, we cheat. We put it in something called nitric acid for 2 days. Vinegar does the same trick. It just takes a lot longer. You could bend the bone because the acid removes all of the salts, leaving only the collagen fibers. It has calcium salts. That makes it hard. It also has a good blood supply and nerve supply. It cannot elongate and it can thicken. Now, cartilage. It has living cells trapped in lacuna, but the blast cells are only in the perichondrium. So if you look at this cartilage here, it's not hollow. So if you look at it, you only have cells out here and out here. You have no hollow inside. So the endosteum is the inner lining. So this only has a perichondrium. There's no endochondrium. Collagen fibers give flexibility. Again, that's the fiber you should guess for connective tissues, unless it has reticular in its name. Absence of salts allow a lot of flexibility. This is the gristle on the ends of the bones of chicken. No blood or nerve supply. It can, and it can thicken. So that's the difference between cartilage and bone. So I'll ask you these questions. I will now try to talk about the 3 types of cartilage in 4 minutes. Hyaline cartilage is the most common type. It's found in the rib cage, the trachea, the nose, the ends of long bones. We'll talk about that later. The chondrocytes are in lacuna. So look, there's the chondrocyte in the lacuna. The lacuna is the empty part around it. So the lacuna is the emptiness. Collagen fibers are not visible. Just how they're arranged and how they do the stain. This is an H&E stain. This might be a crystal violet stain. You can't see the fibers. You can see the fibers in the perichondrium, though. It's surrounded by a perichondrium with chondroblasts. Peri means around. So this is our vanilla cartilage. This is fibrocartilage. It's found in intervertebral discs, the pubic symphysis, and menisces. Those are in your knee, in your clavicle, between your clavicle and scapula, clavicle and sternum. They're articular discs between bones. It has thick collagen fibers with it. So look, oh my goodness, that looks like dense regular connective tissue. The technical definition of fibrocartilage is cartilage that has dense regular connective tissue mixed in it. So we'll see both fibroblasts right there and chondrocyte in lacuna. That is our battle cry today, I believe. So you'll see these thick fibers. So I have the fibers going this way, it looks like, which has got my orientation completely off on this bone. I guess this is the pubic bone and it's turned sideways. It does not get surrounded by a perichondrium. The reason for this, we have bone. It's right up flush against the cartilage. So the bone actually doesn't have a perichondrium either. The bone and the cartilage are fused in. Hyaline cartilage has a space on either side. So here's one space. There's an epithelial tissue there. There's another tissue here. So it has a perichondrium. Our third one is elastic cartilage. This one has these elastic fibers, so these nice black elastic fibers in its matrix. Hence it gets its name. We still have chondrocytes in lacuna. It has a perichondrium. It's not on here. It's found in the epiglottis, which is part of your larynx. It prevents you from choking. And the auricle is your ear. So this allows the cartilage to basically spring back like elastic. So we have some questions here. I will ask you these questions at the beginning of the next lecture. Thank you.